Two's company, but not three. That's too much company.
Nailed it. Hello and welcome back to Two's Company, episode 6. Actually, before I just do my very professional intro, I would love to mention something that happened to us this week. Sophie had the nicest DM from a listener, you know, saying everything they loved about the podcast, really complimentary, blah, blah, blah. And the message started, I love yours and Anna's new podcast. My name is Grace. So, this is a fortnightly podcast hosted by Sophie Hellyer and Grace Kingswell. Hi, everyone. And in today's episode, we are discussing Billie Eilish's Vogue cover, the local election results, whether it's okay to wear crocs on the red carpet, and I had a great chat with Hugh Fearnley-Whittingstall, which we will get to later.
And we obviously haven't forgotten our regular segments, Vagina Facts, Things We Disagree On, and the Mailbag.
Did we have many
I actually think we might have forgotten the mailbag.
Oh, no! You usually get the questions.
Classic. I'll dig some out while we're recording.
So just quickly to let you know, this episode is kindly sponsored by Ecologic, that is with 2 Ks. Their aim is to help households move away from using cleaners packaged in single-use plastic. Ecologic's refill packs contain biodegradable pods in their concentrated form, ready to use around the house after simply adding water and shaking. The pods are just a fraction of the size and a fraction of the carbon footprint of traditional cleaning products that typically contain 90% water. Using Ecologic, your cleaning bottles are designed for refill, not landfill.
And you can get 15% off with the code Two'sCompany at ecologic.com, and that's Ecologic with 2 Ks.
So, let's get on with the episode.
Band meeting. Grace.
Present. Sophie.
Present.
We're nailing that every time.
Anna.
Not present.
How was your week?
Oh, it's been a good week. What have I done? Just general stuff. I feel like you're the one that's had the craziest week ever, and I'm sure you'll tell us about that. I rather enjoyed seeing a few news stories or social commentary stories that we picked up on in our first few episodes come back into the limelight. And the first of those was Billie Eilish's break. She always breaks the internet, doesn't she?
She broke the internet.
She broke the internet again with some rather racy images for Vogue. And I wanted to get your thoughts on it because I had many thoughts on this.
Yes, so did I. So for the handful of people who missed the story, Billie was on the front cover of Vogue and she had traded in her signature, you know, the neon green hair and the baggy clothing for more of like a pin-up look with a series of inspired lingerie photos with corsets and heels. And the reaction to her Instagram post of the cover was seismic. There was, I think it surpassed 1 million likes in just 6 minutes.
Which is a world record or something.
Yeah, and it's now, I think, the 3rd most liked photo ever on Instagram, I think.
It's insane. So I was really interested in this because accompanying her Instagram photo was the caption, which was something along the lines of, do whatever the fuck you want when you want. And I think that was her preempting the barrage of criticism that may have been along the lines of, why are you suddenly doing a really sexy photo shoot when so far you've just been completely yourself, worn whatever the hell you wanted, and actually provided a lot of young girls with a different type of role model. What do you think about that? Because I remember you saying on the episode where we talked about it that you really liked that she was giving that alternative view. And, you know, when you and I were growing up, we had like Britney Spears and Christina Aguilera and everyone with no clothes on.
Yeah. So in my notes, it just says undecided. But, you know, I was feeling very conflicted about it. And, you know, when you put it into the context of the industry she's in and all the beauty ideals that come with that, it is actually rather complex. I did say, like, I really love that she wasn't as she was making sure she wasn't as sexualized as other musicians, pop stars, whatever. But, you know, firstly, she was a legal child. She got famous at 13 and she was like 17 when that was all going on. And I think it was quite a simplistic interpretation of me to think that she was choosing to be a role model for like body positivity and all this other stuff, when actually she's never actually claimed to be any of those things. That's just what I've taken her stance of because she was wearing baggy clothes. And even if she did stand for all that stuff, she is allowed to change her mind. Like, she can totally, actually, I put a quote, if she said, "So my thing is that I can do whatever I want. It's all about what makes you feel good. If you want to get surgery, go get surgery. If you want to wear a dress that somebody thinks looks too big, you look too big wearing, fuck it. If you feel like you look good, you look good." Which I kind of have to agree with
that. Yeah.
And she's now 19 and she's like, I can't even explain how famous she is. And I'd say that's like very difficult terrain to navigate. She's got famous at 13. She's now 19. Growing up in the limelight like that, that's a hell of a lot of pressure on your shoulders. Getting comfortable in your skin and like being famous is just going to amplify that. And she also said, if you actually read the interview, she says the reason she's wearing a corset is because she hates her stomach and she's really self-conscious about it.
Oh.
Yeah.
And I guess, like you're right. When someone is famous, we forget about all of the other aspects of their life. We just see them as this famous person, and actually they become kind of ageless in a sense. So when she got super, super famous right at the beginning, it was probably really easy to say that she was forging her own path and being really different because we saw this incredibly famous female star forgetting her age, assuming that she should fit the mold that everyone else is pouring themselves into, which is over-sexualized. And actually she was super young, so maybe she didn't even feel like she wanted to portray that kind of view of her body because she wasn't feeling it yet.
I think actually from reading that interview, the reality behind her wearing the baggy clothes was because she got an injury in her dancing, and it was like after that injury she just didn't want to be seen like that. I think we're going to continuously see Billie evolve. Hey, have I pronounced her name right? I bet I said Eilish instead of Eilish.
I don't think you've said her surname yet.
Phew. I don't think it's necessarily fair that we're like holding this 19-year-old up to be the moral arbiter of like what a woman should wear and do. And actually probably what's way more important, like all the headlines are talking about what a woman wore, and actually her new song is about the systemic abuse of power, which is surely a far more important conversation. But here we are discussing what she's wearing.
Okay. Bad us. So, segueing into something rather more dull, did you enjoy the coverage of the local elections?
Nothing dull about the elections.
Oh my God, there's so much that's dull about politics.
I actually picked up the Times this morning and went through the first 5 pages and was like, that's enough now.
I know, me too. I read the first page and then went to the Style magazine, where I was thrilled to see that there is a trend for men wearing skirts.
And I was thrilled to see the crisp sandwich is cool.
We'll get to that later. I have a lot of thoughts.
The election results. So there's a big win in Hartlepool in the by-election for the Tories, and in general, I think the Tories did really well, which shows support for Labour, and Starmer is really low. There was some slightly more fun news at the election, the one that made us both laugh.
About the polling station in the back of a car.
Yeah, I love the photo.
So good. I thought, because I didn't see that on the news. I first saw that on Have I Got News For You, the TV show, which I love. And I wasn't sure. You never quite know with Have I Got News For You if it's true. I mean, it usually is true, but because it's a comedy show, I was like, is this for real?
So basically a church warden slept in and they couldn't get the keys to the polling station, so they set it up in the back of a boot car. Sophie, this is Sophie from the future. I think you mean car boot.
So good.
What's interesting is that like they're all actually trained to do that, because apparently it's quite a common occurrence, and in nearly every election someone sleeps in and they don't have the keys, and they often have to set polling stations up in places like the back of a car.
They need to just send all of their representatives really great alarm clocks the day before. And what was the thing about dogs going viral at polling stations?
Just laughing that all these polling station church wardens get sent Lumi alarm clocks.
Yeah. Sophie Hellyer has a discount code.
Dogs at polling stations, probably my favourite part of the elections. If you just go on Twitter, hashtag dogs at polling stations.
You know how you said
dogs.
Billie Eilish's name correctly? You have just said polling stations 4 times.
Polling stations?
That's the one.
But it's spelled polling.
Well, it's a double L.
Poll.
Oh, it's a poll.
Anyway, polls.
So why did they go viral?
Just because mainly they're cute and fluffy. Have you not seen all the pictures of the dogs at the... Okay.
No, I haven't.
You just go check that out, guys.
Okay.
And also my mum got re-elected, which is rather lovely for her, and I'm very proud.
Well done, Sophie's mum. That's amazing. There's another news story which we both absolutely adored.
Someone wore a pair of spray-painted gold Crocs to the Oscars.
So Crocs have done a lot of high-profile collabs over the last year. And most recently with Justin Bieber, I think.
So is this why? So this is the news story I think I sent you, that Victoria Beckham got sent a pair of Crocs from Justin Bieber, and there was a headline saying Victoria Beckham says she'd rather die than wear Crocs.
Yeah, so Biebs has done a collaboration with Crocs, and he did some, hashtag influencer gifting. Sorry you missed out on that, Soph. And he sent Victoria Beckham a pair of his Crocs, and she very kindly said that, she'd rather, she would never be seen dead in them. She's obviously wrong, because we both know that Crocs are very practical and comfortable footwear.
If you want fashion advice, do you go to Victoria Beckham or Grace and Sophie?
Yeah, I know, totally. But this is a great opportunity for me to say that, rather embarrassingly, I am loving Justin Bieber's new music.
I probably don't know any of it.
And it's terrible because my husband is sitting in this room editing our podcast, and, he writes very good music, and there's me saying that I'm obsessed with Justin Bieber. No regrets.
What does he sing? Yummy, yummy.
That was a low point. That was a low point. I didn't enjoy that one.
In slightly more serious news, Caitlyn Jenner, the former Olympic champion and reality TV personality who is now running for Californian governor, said she opposes transgender girls competing in girls' sports at school. She basically said it's unfair. This is really interesting for me. I mean, Caitlyn came out as transgender woman in 2015. It's quite unusual. I mean, it's controversial to hear this opinion. And coincidentally, meanwhile in New Zealand, weightlifter Laurel Hubbard, who's also a transgender woman, now looks likely to qualify for the Olympics. Olympics have allowed this kind of thing since 2015, but it'll be the first major case. And I mean, this is a bit of a rhetorical question. I don't expect us to have the answers, and it's a really deep, complex subject. But, is it fair on Laurel Hubbard's female rivals if she wins a medal?
Yeah, there's no right answer, is there? Because obviously historically the reason that men and female sporting endeavours have been separated is because, let's be honest, physically we are very different, and men are stronger than women. And
then that's a whole other complex issue in itself, which brings in like the intersex into the conversation, which I think is a separate conversation to trans. But, athletes like Caster Semenya, who's had years of degrading court battles, she's classified as DSD, which is disorders of sex development. So it's like she may have the XY chromosome instead of the XX, but she is legally a woman raised as a girl. And that's the whole thing, is like even biological sex isn't easy to determine. Like it's not that simple.
Yeah. Side note, but I did not know that Caitlyn Jenner was an Olympic athlete. No idea.
Well, I think it's very faux pas to say the name, but she used to go under a different name when she was an Olympic athlete.
Okay. Oh, there's so many grey areas these days. It's like, what,
this is a really delicate thing to discuss, but with cancel culture these days, you could so easily say something that would just get you totally written off. And especially as a feminist, the common feminist view is all women are women. And then, conversations like this, it gets
very nuanced. Yeah. In other news, there have been killer whales seen off the coast of Cornwall. So
I love that you didn't want that impressed with this. It's so cool.
I didn't see this news story. This is one of the things that you've written for me to say, and it's very much news for me right now.
Well, I was a bit bummed because Johnny and I were down at Porthcurno, which is next to the Minack Theatre, the day before this happened, and I saw it on Instagram the next day that there was just killer whales just cruising past the beach.
Wow.
Yeah.
Also, I have started watching This Is Us, as per your recommendation. Have you started Line of Duty?
Oh my God. Hang on. Firstly, give me your review of This Is Us.
No, because you haven't started watching it.
Johnny and I decided to watch This Is Duty. We went to series
Line of Duty.
What did I call it?
This Is Duty.
Classic, Sophie. We watched episode 1, series 1.
Okay.
We got about 10 minutes in, decided it was the worst show we've ever seen and stopped.
Why do you do this? You always do this. You watch stuff and you literally give it 10 minutes.
Well, I'm not wasting my time. If it's not got me in 10 minutes, it's not got me.
No, honestly, you are wrong.
Agree to disagree.
Agree to disagree.
But did you like This Is Us?
No, I hated it. I really enjoyed it. And I don't like that I
I'm
did
on
because...
series 3 of This Is Us. Still loving it.
The whole nation is going to hate you, by the way, now for not enjoying Line of Duty.
Probably. We'll do an Insta poll, see if there's any other individual out there who doesn't like Line of Duty. So England's government has also just put forward the green list for summer travel, which is 12 countries that we can travel to from May the 17th, including Australia, New Zealand, Portugal, Iceland. Going to go anywhere this summer, Grace?
No, not going to go anywhere. We were on FaceTime to Nick's parents in Australia this morning, and we said, oh, yes, Australia's now on the green list. We could technically come from the 17th of May. And his mum and dad said, yeah, if you've got 10 grand, because although you can travel there now, there are still massively limited flights. Australia and New Zealand are still heavily controlling who comes in and who doesn't, because they're still repatriating people. So
it's not quite as simple as it sounds.
It's not as simple as it sounds. And also, why would I? Yeah, I don't want to miss summer in Cornwall.
Okay, I'm not going on holiday. I'm just going to sit in South Cornwall with some binoculars and look for killer whales.
Okay. Should we move things along, because as normal we've waffled. This week I spoke to Hugh Fearnley-Whittingstall about his love of cold water swimming. So here it is, guys. Enjoy. Welcome, Hugh Fearnley-Whittingstall, to the podcast. How are you?
I'm very well, Grace. It's lovely to be here.
So we connected because I was talking about how much I love your Instagram account on Two's Company.
Well, thank you very much.
Mainly because of your morning swims. And you slid into our DMs, Hugh, to say thanks so much for the shout out, which I just thought was brilliant. And we're going to talk today about your love of swimming. Am I right in saying that you got into cold water swimming because of a documentary that you were filming?
Kind of, yeah. Well, it was not documentary, really. It's a series I did with Steph McGovern for BBC One about wellness. It's called Easy Ways to Live Well. And that was a couple of years ago. And we looked at lots of health hacks, and we investigated various claims of the well-being industry. And we got various workplaces to try out things to make their daily lives better. But also we made ourselves guinea pigs for a number of sort of wellness road tests. And I drew what I thought at the time was a very short straw, which was cold water therapy. And the deal was, I as from that moment, I was to have either a cold shower or a cold bath or swim in some cold water every single day. And as we started filming in January, and one of the first things I did was go with a group just outside Bristol of Clifton sea swimmers in this extraordinary old Victorian kind of tidal lido, where the water comes over this wall, and you've got this shallow lagoon. There was frost on the ground. There'd been hard frost. The temperature hadn't been above 4 degrees for several days, been well below freezing that night. The water temperature was 3 degrees. And they, of course, were quite well adjusted to it. But for me, this was a standing start. And I got in. I mean, I certainly couldn't do a piece to camera. I couldn't speak. Everything was just sort of absolutely seized up. My breath was taken away. And I did stay in for a couple of minutes, but I came out, and I was a human ice block. And of course, I'd done everything wrong. That's not. I should say to anybody, that's not how to get into cold water swimming. Don't just go from nowhere getting into a 3 degree sea in the middle of winter. You will not have a nice time. But there was something about even that experience, the after feeling, the afterglow, and actually the fun of chatting to those lovely people who'd been doing it for a long time, made me think that there is something in this, and so I stuck with it. And bizarrely, I mean, this is, I say bizarrely because I'm really bad at making resolutions and even worse at keeping them. But since then I have had a cold water beginning to my day every single day for nearly 2.5 years. So if it isn't a swim, it's a shower or a bath.
Okay, because this was going to be one of my questions. I knew in advance that you haven't missed a day, and I was just going to say, Hugh, I don't believe you.
There are days when I've had to ask myself, did that really count? i.e. maybe I was staying in a hotel and the water just wasn't very cold because it's got a water tank in the roof that gets heated up. But the point is, Grace, I gave it my best shot. I found on any given day, I found the coldest water available to me. In fact, there was one hotel that, for some bizarre reason, the water in the tap was a lot colder than the water in the shower. So I filled the waste paper bin with cold water from the tap, got into the shower and poured the cold water from the waste paper bin over me. That's how committed I am.
Amazing. Actually, that reminds me of some mornings when Sophie and I, if the waves are too dangerous and there's a bit of a rip and the swell's too big, sometimes we just take a bucket to the beach and take it in turns to pour the bucket over each other's head, which can actually be quite fun.
I can imagine also that helps you. I mean, you obviously have a great friendship and a lovely working relationship on the podcast, but maybe that's also quite a good way to release some of those inevitable tensions that creep up on such a close working relationship.
Yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head there, Hugh. So what is your favourite post-swim feed? What do you gravitate towards after a swim?
Do you know what? Quite traditional cup of tea. I'm having a cup of tea now. My second cup of tea since my swim this morning. I have had a few kombucha-soaked apricots, which is one of my little sort of morning.
Oh, so bougie! I love it.
Yeah, no, that's a real treat. Kombucha-soaked apricots with a bit of yogurt. I've had a glass of our homemade goat's kefir. I hesitate to say this, but I have had a very small slice of chocolate brownie because I'm testing a new recipe, and it came out of the oven delicious and warm yesterday, looking very, very good. And I wanted to see what the overnight cold version was this morning and check that texture. So I have had a slither of chocolate brownie with my tea, and I have to say it's a knockout recipe. I'm very, very pleased with it. It's going to be in the next book.
Amazing. Well, I don't know what it is about cold water, but it always makes me feel like I need something very carby. There's a big difference, isn't there, between swimming in the depths of winter, a January swim and the way you feel when you get out, as opposed to a lovely summer morning as it was this morning. You can just sort of put your clothes on and carry on with your day, whereas I feel in the winter you really need that kind of sustenance to warm up.
My tip would be, don't necessarily head for the larder within seconds of getting warm, because that can become a little bit compulsive. That kind of post swim thing. I like to warm up with a cup of tea. The office that I'm sitting in now has a little wood burning stove. Unfortunately, we now know that burning wood is the great new environmental crime because of those particulates. But I do have very well-seasoned dried logs in my defence. But I do like to put the wood-fired oven on, get the office nice and toasty. I always put, after a properly cold swim, and I did some ice swimming over the winter, I always put on my base layer of merino wool leggings and top, and then I get my jeans on top of that, and I dress up nice and cozy, come to my office where it's nice and warm with my cup of tea. Only when I've really warmed up do I then go and get something to eat. I think that works quite well for me.
Interesting. The other morning I had a nasty experience actually, where I got far too cold. I wasn't in the water for very long, but I faffed around afterwards, taking photos on the beach, as you do, playing with the puppies that were accompanying us. And it wasn't a very sunny morning, and I hadn't eaten anything that morning or drunk anything, and usually I would have a cup of tea before I go and swim. And my blood sugar absolutely plummeted. My vision went blurry. I couldn't feel my limbs. I felt like I was going to vomit. It was really, the only other time that's happened to me is when I rolled an ankle, and I think the pain kind of put me into shock. And that was a real, and I should know this, I'm a nutritional therapist. Science is my bag. And I didn't have any snacks in my swim bag, and I hadn't eaten. And that to me was a real wake up call and a reminder that actually you have to respect the cold water. You cannot just, like you were saying, if you've never done it before, don't just go and jump in.
No, totally.
Really, really think about it. And actually, I think, even if it's a cup of tea, like the sugar in the milk or whatever it is, a bit of caffeine, it really helps.
Absolutely. And actually, what I was doing in the winter is making a little flask of masala chai, nice, strong, spicy tea in the flask with just a little bit of honey in the chai. And I could have that as soon as I got out. as I was getting dressed, and then walk back up to the house, second cup of tea, on with the base layer, and start properly warming up. But you're right, you have to be, I mean, it's good to be ready. If you're going to be exposing yourself to cold water or even cold weather, you want to be well equipped, hot drink in your bag, snacks if you do start feeling tired and sort of fading a bit, you've got to be prepared.
Yeah. Now, Hugh, let's talk about these IGTV videos of yours that I'm really obsessed with. My first question, and for those that don't know what I'm talking about, please head over to Hugh's Instagram page, which I hear is about to reach 100,000 followers.
Yeah, it's very exciting.
Amazing. And yeah, I would encourage you to go and watch some of Hugh's swim videos, especially the ice ones. I think are really lovely. Now, my first question is, who is filming these videos?
Okay. Well, some of them, I have got one of those funny little wobbly phone tripod things that I put on top of the stuff.
Like every good influencer, Hugh, you have your kit.
Of course. But there are other members of my family who sometimes get involved in filming me, including one of my very nearly grown-up children. But it is part of my Instagram thing that I'm not involving my family in it. So they are not infrequently behind the camera, but pretty much never in front of it. Animals, yes. I mean, if you want to see a bit of goat aerobics or goat yoga, it wasn't really that. It was just me messing around with our goats and the kids jumping all over my back. I posted that yesterday. That's a lot of fun. So the extended family is my family of animals, which is Rodney the cockerel is a bit of a star on Instagram now. And the goats are relatively new arrivals. And so, yeah, lots of fun to be had with the four-legged members of the family. And the two-legged chickens.
And the two-legged chickens. But are you the only human member of the family that enjoys the cold water?
No. Others do get occasionally involved, but I'm the only person with a daily habit.
Right, nice. And just before we do our fun little quickfire, let's talk a little bit about your book. In it, you give us these 7 great ways to improve your health, your diet, your lifestyle. If you had to pick one of the 7 to run with and disregard all the others, and you can't answer this question with, no, Grace, it's really important to do them all at once because it's a lifestyle, blah, 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 which would you pick?
Okay. Well, you say I can't, but I'm slightly going to, but then I am going to answer your question. But the whole point really of the book was to get away from the sort of single fix idea, the sort of let's worship one idea, whether it's sort of paleo or zero sugar or gut health or whatever. I think there's something quite actually not helpful about this desperate search for the single fixed diet that does it all.
I agree.
I'm very upfront about that in the book. But I do think this has been a really interesting time to talk about healthy eating, because after a couple of decades of a lot of confusion, I feel that we are working towards some quite good scientific consensus on the things that are really important, which is not to say that things won't shift a little bit more in the coming years. But so I wanted to capture 7 things that I mean, it could have been 6, could have been 8, but 7 things that I think are worth thinking about. And the other reason for doing that is that if you are fixated on a single mantra about healthy eating or single idea, then the idea of success or failure becomes very binary. And if it's not working for you, you think you just give up. Whereas if you've got 7 little, it's like 7 small New Year's resolutions instead of one big one, might be much easier to work with. And if one of them's not going so well, that's okay, because the others are ticking along nicely. So that's the thinking behind having these 7 ideas, and they include the first one is the big one though, because it sort of encaptures the other one. So chapter 1 is called Go Whole. Now we all need to eat more whole foods, unprocessed foods, just real foods, natural foods, foods from the garden, foods that look like very much like they did when they were grown. That doesn't just mean lots of fruit and veg. It also means pulses and seeds and nuts. But even meat and dairy can play a role in that if it's not too processed. So I'm a kind of whole food omnivore, but it's very important when you talk about whole foods that you're not just imagining lentils and brown rice, because I'm really talking about all foods that are whole and real and natural. All the plants, fish, meat, it can all play a part, but not things that have been industrially processed to have the good stuff taken out or preservatives put in. So go whole is the overriding message. But, go varied, also very important. Go with your gut, which is chapter 3. Use some probiotic foods to nurture your gut health. And then we have to look at the things that we do need to dial down a bit. Refined sugar just offers us almost nothing except calories. I think that's established now. Fats have been demonized, whereas actually fats are very complex and very valuable foods. Even though they're very, very calorie dense, they've got very, very many good things. So it's without bombarding people, overloading people with too much of the science, I wanted to capture the valuable consensus of what we can safely say is a good approach to healthy eating right now. A little bit of mindfulness to wrap it all up with is also very helpful, and not just when you're eating, but when you're shopping, when you're cooking. Just be with the food that you're with. See it, notice its colour, the sound it makes when you chop it or break it. Just be with it, and don't be doing something else when you're cooking and eating. Be cooking and eating, and be with it, and then you'll get more from your food. And in the end, it's not that hard to. You can get more pleasure from healthier foods if you're mindful about them and if you attend to them. You can very easily train your palate to get more pleasure from less sugar, for example. I mean, for me now, just dried fruit is really, really sweet, and anything with too much sugar in it is too sweet. And that's just from slowly shifting to a more whole food based diet.
Amazing. Well, if that isn't a good plug for your new book, then I don't know what is.
I gave it my best shot, Grace.
Folks that are listening, I have read Hugh's book cover to cover, and I agree with very many of the things that you say from a nutritional therapist's perspective. So do go give it a read. Lastly, shall we play a little quick fire about swimming?
Sure.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I only have 5 questions because my imagination failed me after the 5th. Okay, are you ready?
So this is where I have to curb my temptation to ramble on at length, which you've already been experiencing on.
No waffling, Hugh.
No waffling.
No waffling.
Cut the waffle. Get to the point.
Okay. Quick fire with Hugh Fearnley-Whittingstall. Salty or freshwater swimming?
Fresh.
Hair dry or dunk under?
Hair dry.
Sunrise or sunset swims?
Sunrise.
Hold on, hair dry?
Yeah. I mean, so throughout my ice swims, I kept my head above the water with a beanie on, and I do wear gloves and boots because those extremities, it's just pain. Whereas the cold water on the rest of my body is a lovely, really bracing, intense tingle. Hands, feet, and head at 2 or 3 degrees, it just hurts.
So I think I agree with you there, because when I lived in London, I used to swim at the Hampstead Heath Ponds, and that's fresh water, and 3 degrees is horrible. However, in Cornwall, I really dislike swimming with gloves and boots, and actually I find that because when your feet are in connection with the sand or the grass or whatever, you get that amazing grounding, you get that incredible feedback to the limbic system in your brain, and it really just, I find it a lot more of a calming experience if I'm not wearing my little swim socks. And then following on from that, I just don't feel like I've been for a swim if I haven't got my hair wet.
Yeah, interesting. Well, I'm just getting to that point where the pond temperature is just nudging towards double figures. And I think the boots and gloves are coming off and the head's going under. It's really when you're in the ice, but I have to say I've probably got a bit too cozy with my boots and my hat and my gloves.
Yeah, might be hard to take them off now.
I like what you said there. I like to feel my toes dragging through the weeds at the edge of the pond, and my hands gripping the wet steps and all that. So I'm going to get even more. I'm going to shed the boots. Get the head dunked and reach out with my naked, wet hands and enjoy it at another level.
Well, I'm sure you'll document that for us on Instagram, Hugh. So I look
Of course I will. I said the other day I was going to keep my gloves, because other people have made this point. I said I'm going to keep my boots and gloves on until I see the first dragonfly. Now, that could be any day now with this warm weather. So I'll have to stick to that. The moment I see a dragonfly, the gloves are off.
Okay, group swims or solo swims?
Solo and very occasionally duo.
Okay. Towel or dry robe?
Towel. Are those dry robes with the kind of, a lot of them are very plasticky.
I thought you might have something to say about these.
I just take a kukoi down there, cotton kukoi, and just wrap it round me and walk back up to the house.
What is a kukoi?
Oh, it's sort of like, one of those very light...
Like a hammam towel.
Like a hammam type towel, like a kind of light thing. And I actually quite like walking back up to the house without getting overdressed. I quite like the wind and on my skin and that, enjoying that tingle. If I've been in on a really cold day, then I'll probably wrap up and put my hoodie back on. But otherwise, I quite like that. Keeping my skin exposed to the elements as I walk back up after the swim.
Nice. Okay, well, we did quite well. Those were...
We got 3 in with really quick answers.
Those were some fast answers for you, Hugh. Well, due to time constraints and the fact that, Sophie and I are the real stars of this podcast, I will have to wrap things up there. But thank you so much for coming on and talking to us all about your love of cold water. Any final salient words for the lovely listeners of Two's Company?
Look, if you think cold water isn't for you, think again, because I'd never imagined for a moment that I would get into this. It was like, as I said, it was a short straw for our TV show, and 2 years later, I absolutely love it. So as with all things in life, don't knock it till you've tried it. Get involved, have a go.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Hugh.
Thank you, Grace. Lovely talking to you.
I hope you guys really enjoyed that interview. I loved talking to Hugh, and do go and check out his new book, Eat Better Forever, where he gives 7 ways to improve your diet and just become more healthy. And it's very, very funny. He writes beautifully. And we are going to segue from a lovely interview with Hugh Fearnley-Whittingstall about cold water swimming straight into some vagina facts. Vagina,
Vulva,
labia,
clitoris,
notorious, VAG, vagina facts. So, scraping the barrel this week of my known vagina facts, I have quite an interesting one for you. So, did you know that the vagina has a larger blood supply than other parts of the body, and therefore it bounces back quite well from injury, e.g. childbirth? Let's not go into that.
I was just about to say, what injuries do the vagina get? But that's a very good example.
Childbirth, yeah. And it's an important point to note that, and as Sophie's going to go on to, that because it has such a large blood supply, it's also highly absorbent. So you do not want to be putting stuff filled with chemicals up there. Soph.
Such as tampons that are bleached cotton,
tampons,
right?
Yeah. So any non-organic tampon will be bleached and deodorized and also contain plastics and microplastics. And as the vagina is super absorbent, it's a very quick entry route into your blood circulation.
Organic tampons, kids. So I'm going easy on I didn't look very deep into my barrel of vagina facts for this one.
Oh, you mean you're not going to tell us about the hymen?
I just copy and pasted it from the TED talk I gave a few years ago, which is linked in the show notes.
0 marks for effort.
So traditional tampons and sanitary pads both contain single-use plastics, and it's estimated in the UK that 2.5 million tampons and 1.4 million pads are flushed down the toilet every single day.
Wow.
2.5 million tampons a day. Also, 1.4 million pads a day. Who's flushing pads down the toilet?
I know.
The toilet should only have 3 things: pee, paper, and poo. Okay.
Let's use that as a soundbite. That was great.
So anything you flush down the toilet enters our sewage systems. A lot of them, they make their ways into the rivers and oceans. I do have some personal experience.
Tell us about the time you were surfing and a sanitary pad hit you on the forehead.
Yeah, I was paddling for a wave I used to surf at home is called the sewer pipe because it breaks on the sewer pipe. And I've had plenty of condoms and tampons. And one day I had a used sanitary pad hit me in the face as I was paddling for a wave. So not great for the environment.
No.
Luckily, these days we have loads of reusable options. Grace and I are huge fans of period pants. I use a menstrual cup. As we said, there's now non-applicator organic tampons, reusable pads. There's so many options.
And actually, it's quite a nice little way to talk again about our sponsor of this episode, which is a cleaning company trying to reduce single-use plastics, and period waste is a massive area for that. Sustainability is something we are all trying to think more about as we become better informed about the impact our lifestyles are having on the planet.
Manufactured in the UK, Ecologic's home cleaning products are plant-derived, plastic-free, vegan, palm oil-free, cruelty-free, toxic-free, and every element in their packaging is 100% compostable. Their refill packs contain biodegradable pods in their concentrated form, ready to be used around the house after simply adding water and shaking.
Ecologic have great affordable options for those starting out on their sustainability journey. These include kits with bottles for life, or for those of you who are ahead of the game, refills can be purchased in single or multiple packs.
They also have a disinfectant that conforms to the British standard of disinfecting and protects our homes against COVID-19. Ideal.
Yeah, super important as things are starting to open up now and we need to all still be really careful. Considering that the oceans have been particularly impacted by last year's surge in single-use alternatives, Ecologic have partnered with Surfers Against Sewage to give 2% of every sale towards supporting them in their mission to eliminate plastic pollution in our seas.
Ecologic have kindly offered a discount for Two's Company listeners. You can order by going to ecologic.com, that's spelled EKOLOGIK, and you'll get 15% off the kits or the refill bundle when you use the code Two's Company, all in capital letters with no apostrophe, at checkout.
Thank you so much to Ecologic.
One other news story that caught my attention in the last couple of weeks was the one of German gymnasts at the Euro Championships, the Euro Gym Championships, whatever they're called.
Did you just make that up?
Some kind of competition. And they were wearing full body costumes, which is basically like leggings, like a bodysuit. And they were wearing them to take a stand against sexualisation in gymnastics, following a recent history of sexual abuse in the sport. It stood out to me because it parallels with a lot of my own feelings about, I grew up surfing and having to wear a bikini for these photo shoots, whereas in reality, I never wore a bikini, I wore a wetsuit. And then I got to, my mid-20s and kind of took my own stand and was like, I'm not going to model in bikinis anymore. I'm only doing wetsuits. And I remember when I started surfing in leggings and, it wasn't a done thing then. And it was a bit controversial and I got funny looks wearing leggings in the sea. And just like, it's 2021 and the gymnasts are saying when they're training, they're wearing these full bodysuits, but when they go to compete, they're wearing these like tiny little revealing leotards. It's just like, gosh, I can't believe we're still having this conversation and that women are still feeling they have to dress like that to compete.
And also imagine feeling like all you want to do is go out there and compete and do your absolute best. But the night before the competition, you're needing to book a bikini wax and make sure that, on camera, you haven't got anything slipping out that's not meant to be there.
You'd be worried about your tampon string hanging out your leotard.
Totally. And I think, that's absolute bollocks.
Yeah. And if you're interested in this, I'd really recommend the documentary Athlete A I think it's on Netflix. Have you seen that?
No.
It follows the history of jailed sports doctor Larry Nassar and the sexual abuse with a lot of now, I think they are like Olympic gymnasts. And it's not just a US issue. There's an ongoing inquiry about abuse in the UK with gymnasts. So, yeah, it's...
Okay, thanks for the reco. I will watch that, but if I was to give you a recommendation of something to watch now, you probably wouldn't watch it, so I won't bother.
I would watch it. I just might not like it.
Segueing into things we disagree on, since we clearly disagree on television. Agree to disagree.
Things we disagree on.
Agree to disagree.
Things we disagree on. Grace texted me this morning and said, make sure you can pronounce the word virucidal,
Yes.
because she wanted to use it in the ad. And I replied, why would I use a word that no one knows what it means? And surely we should just replace it for kills viruses.
Well, Sophie said, firstly, I didn't write the word. Our sponsor kindly sent us a little thing that we could use to edit and make our own and promote the brand. And Sophie said it's always better to stick to pub language, which I disagree with, because I think, I don't know what the statistic is, but we use a tiny fraction of the English language, which is one of the richest and most beautiful and most descriptive languages. And I really do think that, we should try really hard to use words we don't use in everyday language. It improves our intelligence. It's a good exercise. You get so much more bang for your buck in terms of description. And yeah, I disagree. I don't think everything needs to be in pub language. And, I know myself personally that I use the same words over and over again. And people tell me this when they listen to my podcast. And it's something that I'm actually acutely aware of. I want to have a bigger vocabulary. So
I think it's really important that the language we use is accessible and that everyone can understand it. And that's not saying that we shouldn't use big words and fancy adjectives sometimes. I absolutely think we should, but I think we should use them in places in sentences where if you don't understand that word, the sentence still makes sense. So if the sentence hinges on that word, and there's a lot of people out there who might not have had an education to or speak the language as a first language to understand that word, then you end up excluding people from the conversation. So I for me, and it's one of the things I learnt with writing is when I write an article, write it as if you're chatting to someone in the pub. Number one piece of advice.
I mean, I do agree with that sentiment, but I also think it's very easy to look up the definition of a word. It's quite a nice activity to do. You're expanding your knowledge. You're learning something. Mostly everyone has access to a device or something where they can look up the meaning. And I don't
want people to have to pause a podcast to go and look up a word because they don't understand what we're on about.
Well, but I also think context is key, and the context gives so much. So in the context of that sentence, it would have been obvious what virucidal meant.
Possibly,
kills
yes. But when you sent me the make sure you can pronounce virucidal, there was no context, and I was like,
is that maybe because you hadn't read the email yet?
I haven't read the email.
Things we also disagree on. Crisp sandwiches, obviously, and I know that Sophie has just been waiting to bang on about this because they came up in the Sunday Times style again this morning. So take it away, Soph. Talk about your beloved crisp sandwiches.
Well, I don't want to say that I contributed to this being number 3 in the hot things this week in style, but we did mention the crisp sandwich in episode 3 and now it is being hailed as the ultimate sandwich in the Sunday Times. So I really have nothing more to say on the subject other than when's lunchtime.
And, we have now charted on the Apple Podcasts charts.
Oh, my God. We made it to number 99.
Which is epic. The powers that be obviously did listen to our episode and they have been thinking about crisp sandwiches. I would like to be very irritating here and just say that, one cannot talk about putting chemicals up your vagina and then at the same time be very happy to consume chemicals within your food, because let's be honest, it's all the same. So I think health and wellness should be a 360-degree approach, and that if you are concerned about using organic cotton tampons when you have your period, then you should also be concerned about toxins in your bag of crisps or your Oatly Barista Flat White. So that's my take. And
I do agree. Just my one thing on that is, for me, and I think probably for a lot of people, to have a crisp sandwich, as I said, every now and then. If I completely cut all things like that out, it could become obsessive and end up in disordered eating. And I think it's quite, if I didn't have a tampon and I had to just borrow my mate's plastic applicator tampon once in a blue moon, not a big deal, in the same way as having a sandwich, not a big deal. And I don't want to become obsessed with what I eat in a disordered way and say that I'm never eating anything like that. I think a relaxed approach
and you
with awareness.
You having said that will appeal to everyone, and I will sound like the bad guy because that's the criticism that I get all the time on Instagram, is that I'm inaccessible and blah blah blah. But people need to know, people need to take all this with a pinch of salt anyway. What we're giving are opinions and ideas and insight, and actually obviously I eat crisps every now and again.
I was gonna say, you do live it.
Yeah, I'm not, no one is a saint, and we all have our own stuff going on. But for me, as an educator and as a professional, I think it's important for me to say that, nothing works in isolation, and that actually we need to like consider all aspects of what we put into our body from all orifices.
What have you been putting up your nose, Grace Kingswell?
Actually, tampons are great up your nose if you have a nosebleed. Have you ever done
I'm just
that?
going to say, when we said I had a busy week at the start this week, I've just been on a casualty care course all week, which is basically a bit like, I guess, paramedic training. And we definitely learned how to deal with a nosebleed, and you do not put a tampon in the nose.
Why not? It's so good.
Because if you block the nose, the bleeding might end up in the airway, and a blocked airway means
God.
death.
Oh, God. Okay, I won't be doing that anymore. And do we have anything in the mailbag, or did you neglect to look?
I neglect to look, but I feel like this episode's probably reached its length anyway, and we should just like jingle it out of here.
Yeah, okay, jingle, jingle, jingle. Thank you so much again for tuning in to Two's Company with Sophie and I, and massive thanks to Hugh Fearnley-Whittingstall for giving us his time on this interview. And don't forget that this podcast episode is sponsored by Ecologic with 2 Ks, and you can grab 15% off their eco-friendly, single-use plastic-free cleaning products by going to their website ecologic.com and using the code 2's Company in capitals.
Could have used the word reusable, but hey ho.
Bye! Bye-bye!
Two's Company, two's company. But not 3, that's too much company.
Nailed it.